This is CBS News New York.
Breaking news at noon, Luigi Mangione pleads guilty in federal court in the fatal shooting of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. We are live with team coverage and legal analysis. Good afternoon. I'm Mary Calvi in for Cindy Hsu. Now on air and streaming on CBS News New York, Luigi Mangione has pleaded guilty on federal charges. The 28-year-old appeared this morning in U.S. District Court. Here's a look at those charges. One count of interstate stalking resulting in death and one count of stalking through use of interstate facilities resulting in death. Both carried a maximum potential sentence of life in prison. Mangione addressed the court today. He admitted to researching the United Healthcare event and posing as an investor to leadership in order to obtain information. He says he used a 3D printer to make gun parts, and he says he traveled to New York City with the intent to shoot Brian Thompson. We have live team coverage. Let's get right out to Allie Bauman. She is outside of the courthouse with the very latest. Allie.
Yeah, Mary, Luigi Mangione pleading guilty to federal stalking charges. Now, the family of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson was inside the courtroom when Mangione changed his plea and speaking for the first time in his own was detailing the sequence of events. I'm going to read some of what our colleague Alice Gaynor said that he had said inside the courtroom just a few minutes ago, that after years of enduring severe pain from a broken back and navigating the health insurance system, he said, I learned that United Healthcare was holding its annual investor conference in New York City on December 4th, 2024. He said that he goes on to say that he researched the event online and even emailed the UHC leadership posing as an investor requesting information about the conference, and that unlike previous times, he received a response within an hour. Mary, we're going to continue following the details here and talk to you back in a bit.
So now to a live news conference. This is with Luigi Mangione's attorney. Let's hear from him.
Sorry, I was Yet he's being prosecuted twice for the same conduct. As Luigi explained in court today, he endured years of severe, debilitating pain following a broken back while struggling to navigate our health care and health insurance systems. Like the thousands of people who've reached out since this tragedy to share their own experiences, he believed that the system had failed him and destroyed his life. Despite this being a single isolated event, Mr. Mangione has been unfairly treated since the outset in every way and has successfully fought off terrorism charges and the death penalty, while also fighting at the same time two simultaneous prosecutions in two jurisdictions who are trying to punish him twice for the exact conduct. He's been treated differently from every other defendant charged with this offense in New York. However, thankfully, New York law does not allow this. New York law does not permit a person to be prosecuted and punished twice for the exact same crime under a statute that governs successive prosecutions. It's also known as the double jeopardy law. Today's guilty plea triggers this statute, and we just filed our motion in state court explaining why the state charges must be dismissed under New York's double jeopardy protections. We will not be taking any other questions. Thank you so much for coming.
Madam, does your client have any remorse for the man he shot in the back?
We are just hearing from Karen Friedman and Nifalo in regard to filing a petition in state court to have that murder case dropped in what she's calling the double jeopardy statute. Again, a guilty plea from Luigi Mangione this morning. Let us go now for more insight into today's development to Alice Gaynor, who was in the courthouse, in the courtroom, listening to the details and also giving us very detailed descriptions about what was being said in court. Alice.
Well, Well, Mary, this was the first time we really heard Luigi Mangione speak in the courtroom. He's had an outburst or two in the past, but this was the first substantial bit of information we learned from him directly. When he spoke, he opted to sit. He could have stood up if he wanted to. He said he'll sit, and he remained pretty stone-faced. He read his statement admitting, in fact, saying the direct quote was that he had the intent to shoot Brian Thompson. We learned just how he found out more information about that investor conference because, as he pointed out himself, the location was not given out publicly. So he actually emailed UHC leadership, posed as an investor, was saying that he pretended he was someone who had all of this money to invest. And he said, unlike in the past with his dealings with health insurance, this was the first time he received an immediate response. Now, we just heard from the defense, from defense attorneys speaking. They did not take any questions. On the other hand, you have Brian Thompson's family. They were in the courtroom for what I believe was the very first time in either the state or the federal case. They left out a side door. I was leaving about the same time, and they were pretty emotional at times in court. When he admitted to this, I saw his mother and another family member drop their head. I saw tears in their eyes. When they left just now, you had a member of the public yelling at them, "America loves Luigi." So imagine what they must be feeling right now. They saw this man in the courtroom, this man who admitted to murdering their loved one, and then they have to hear comments like that from members of the public who can, I guess, agree with what Luigi Mangione did or empathize with his issues with the healthcare system. He admitted to crossing state lines. That was one of the elements prosecution was going to have to prove here in this federal case. He was facing 2 counts of stalking charges. He admitted that he did so with the intent to place him in fear of death or serious bodily injury. I mean, he used the words that were right there in the count that he was charged with because he had to admit to all this for the judge in order for the judge to accept his guilty plea. The judge could have not accepted it, but she accepted it. And so sentencing will be in December, more than 2 years after the shooting of Brian Thompson. Again, his family left a short time ago. They did not speak. A few reporters were shouting questions at them. They just got in their cars and they left. We heard from defense. We know the Southern District of New York, they are going to be speaking along with the NYPD commissioner and the FBI. The U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, he was actually sitting with the family in the courtroom, and so too was the head of the FBI New York field office. Mary, we're going to send it back to you.
And Alice, they are speaking now, and let us go to that news conference.
Just a few moments ago, Mangione pled guilty to his heinous act. This was not a spontaneous act of violence. It was deliberate, calculated, and premeditated. In the days leading up to the murder, the defendant very carefully prepared for the attack. He tracked Mr. Thompson's whereabouts, conducted surveillance along the route he knew Mr. Thompson would take, and positioned himself to carry out the plan. Then, on a sidewalk on West 54th Street, the defendant murdered Mr. Thompson, shooting him from behind with a 9mm handgun equipped with a silencer. He shot Thompson twice at close range. The second shot came as Mr. Thompson turned and faced the defendant. The defendant did this as everyday New Yorkers walked nearby, and while the rest of the city woke up to start their day. Mangione then ran away, leaving Mr. Thompson to die. The defendant committed this murder in an attempt to draw public attention to his dislike of certain businesses. But we live in a civilized society governed by the rule of law. We debate, we disagree, we protest. We do not commit murder. No grievance, political belief, or ideological cause can ever justify murder. There can be no celebrity in assassination. Any person who celebrates, encourages, or excuses actions like these is fundamentally wrong. Mangione attempted to send a public message through violence, but the message that emerges today is very different. Violence is not a legitimate instrument to promote any political or social message. And those who resort to violence in an effort to advance their beliefs will be prosecuted, convicted, and put in jail. Today, the Southern District of New York, together with our law enforcement partners, writes the final chapter of Mangione's federal prosecution. Now, he stands convicted in federal court and faces life in prison. One other point that's important to note. While the defendant pled guilty, our office does not have a plea agreement with him. Instead, he pled open, which means he pled guilty to all pending counts in the indictment. There are no accommodations or concessions, and we are free to seek the maximum penalty under the law. I'd like to thank the dedicated prosecutors of our office's Violent Organizations and Crime Unit, who are beside me, for their remarkable efforts to bring this case. I would also like to thank the NYPD and the FBI, whose tireless and incredibly sophisticated investigative efforts made this conviction possible. Finally, I want to express on behalf of all of us here our deepest sympathy and compassion for the many family members and friends of Brian Thompson. Mr. Thompson's family and many of his friends were in court for the guilty plea today. I know they will have an opportunity to be heard at sentencing. We all stand in awe of their love for their family and for their friend, and their unwavering commitment to seeing justice done in this case. We hope they can take some solace in the fact that from the beginning, we have brought the full force of the federal government to bear in this case. In this prosecution, we have consistently pursued the maximum penalties under the law as necessary and just punishment for these crimes. The result achieved today now allows our office to seek the maximum penalty allowed, life imprisonment, which, as I've conveyed to Mr. Thompson's family, is what we intend to seek. I'll now turn it over to Commissioner Tisch.
Good afternoon. Thank you, U.S. Attorney McDonald, and thank you to the prosecutors and the federal law enforcement partners who have worked alongside the New York City Police Department throughout this case. Today, Luigi Mangione pleaded guilty in connection with the murder of Brian Thompson on a Midtown Manhattan sidewalk in December of 2024. This is an important moment of accountability, and my thoughts remain first and foremost with Mr. Thompson's family and everyone who knew and loved him. But I also want to take a few minutes today to recognize the extraordinary police work that brought us here. From the moment that Mr. Thompson was assassinated on the morning of December 4th, the NYPD mobilized an enormous investigative effort. Our detectives combed through thousands of hours of surveillance video, followed up on hundreds of tips, and worked through an extraordinary volume of forensic and digital evidence. They used some of the most sophisticated technology available to law enforcement, and they paired it with the kind of painstaking, old-fashioned detective work that has defined the New York City Police Department for generations, interviewing witnesses, canvassing neighborhoods, retracing the suspects' movements, and pursuing every viable lead. Most importantly, they developed a clear image of the man we were looking for and got that image out to the public and to law enforcement agencies across this country 5 days after the murder. That work paid off in Altoona, Pennsylvania, where an alert member of the public recognized Mangione and local police took him into custody. That was not simply a lucky break. It was the culmination of 5 days of relentless investigative work that gave the public the information it needed to recognize the suspect and gave our law enforcement partners what they needed to act. This case began with the worst kind of violence on our streets. It was answered by the very best of the New York City Police Department. To every member of the NYPD who played a role in this investigation, you should be enormously proud for bringing us to this day. And to those who idolize Luigi Mangione, I say this: violence is not a cause, murder is not a message, and a killer is certainly not a hero. Now I'd like to introduce the FBI's Assistant Director in Charge for the New York Field Office, Jim Barnacle.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good day. My name is James Barnacle. I'm the Assistant Director in Charge of the FBI New York field office. I want to begin by addressing the family, friends, and colleagues of Brian Thompson. We had the chance to sit down with the family this morning, and they are still grieving, and they have been grieving for almost 2 years as Brian was taken away in the most heinous way possible. They lost a son, a brother, a husband, and a father, and a friend, and many colleagues and other people. The family deserves closure, the clarity, and the assurance that every step taken throughout our investigation, the New York City Police Department's investigation, the Altoona Police Department's investigation, and the U.S. Attorney's Office prosecution reflected the gravity of the situation and the importance of Brian's life. While today's plea doesn't replace the void he left behind, I hope it offers a glimmer of the closure that the Thompson family and friends deserve. This tragedy shocked the nation and left a deep impact on everyone it touched. Violence driven by hostility toward opportunity and success stands in sharp contrast to the values true Americans hold dear. But rest assured, this FBI and our partners never stopped working to bring this killer to justice. While a plea was entered today, we know the crime has not been erased. Thank you to the FBI's Violent Crime Task Force, our largest partner on that task force, the New York City Police Department, the New York State Police Department. Thank you to the prosecutors and the United States Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, led by Jamie McDonald. Thank you. And I want to thank the officers and detectives of the New York City Police Department, led by Commissioner Tisch, for your agency's unwavering pursuit of truth and accountability. Thank you, Commissioner. I'd also like to thank the Altoona Police Department in Pennsylvania and the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections, who helped facilitate the extradition to New York. We're incredibly grateful to our partners, and we wish the Thompson family comfort and strength as the legal process continues. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Just hearing from the Southern District, the FBI, and the NYPD. Let's go back now to Alice Gaynor, who has been covering this case from the very beginning. Alice, what do we expect the next steps to be here?
So, Mary, the next steps the judge outlined will be probation will want to interview Mr. Mangione, and she addressed him and said it's important if you do choose to speak with them that you're very accurate. She's had defendants in the past who let things go, errors in the reports, and she reads it very closely when considering the sentence because, remember, it is ultimately up to the judge. He could face life in prison. It could be less than that. No matter what happens, he has to serve 85% of his sentence because she pointed out there are programs he could get lesser, get out a little bit earlier because of good behavior. There's other programs. There's no parole in the federal system, she pointed out. So the next steps would be for him to speak with probation, for them to come up with this pre-sentence report that she's going to very closely consider when determining the sentence. And again, that sentencing will be December 18th, 11 a.m. That is more than 2 years after he shot and killed, in his own words, Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare. Again, his family was in the courtroom. I know we heard from defense attorneys. We just heard from the Southern District of New York and the NYPD. We did not hear from Brian Thompson's family. I would suspect that's because we still have a state case that's playing out, and during sentencing is usually when we hear victim impact statements. We also did not hear Mr. Mangione apologize in court because, again, today he was changing his plea. He was admitting to what he did. But he did say it was his intent to come to New York City during that United Healthcare investor conference and shoot Mr. Thompson. Mary?
Alice, thank you. And joining us now for insight into today's developments is attorney and legal expert Rich Schoenstein. This all unfolded in dramatic fashion, but it would seem the decision behind the plea was well thought out.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, his defense team has been excellent from jump. Remember, they got the top charges dismissed in both the federal and state prosecutions. And this decision to plead guilty in advance of the state trial, this seems very purposeful, very strategic, and as you say, very well thought out.
How does sentencing work in this federal plea? Will it all be up to the judge?
It is up to the judge. There is no agreement, but we're hearing that the government has put in a letter suggesting that the range is 292 to 365 months. That's somewhat at odds with the press conference we just saw, where the government said they're going to seek life imprisonment. So I'm not really clear on that. But the judge is going to make the ultimate decision after taking in a probation report, after accepting victim impact statements, potentially accepting another statement from Luigi Mangione himself. The judge will make the final call.
Defense attorneys are trying to get the state case thrown out. What are the chances?
So they have already, and by the way, I'm going to leave this studio. I'm going to run back to my office and pull up their brief. They've already filed a brief to invoke double jeopardy and throw out the state charges. They have a live argument. There is a vigorous double jeopardy statute in New York State. It's very liberal. New York State does not let you retry somebody for the same activity, but there's an argument here that the federal stalking charges are different than the New York State intentional murder charge. They have different elements. They have a different focus. I think that's going to be a live legal argument, and I'm going to be interested to see how it plays out.
Will the murder trial be delayed?
I think the judge has to make a decision about whether or not there still is a murder charge before you go to trial. So either it's going to be a very tight briefing schedule, which is possible because apparently the defense has already briefed the issue, or the judge is going to have to push back jury selection a little bit.
Rich Sowenstein, thank you so much. And stay with CBS News New York for the breaking details in this case. And we'll have continuing updates throughout the day for you on Luigi Mangione pleading guilty in the federal case. And we'll be right back.